Our plans for tonight really are to go through everything that you need to know about the Design Portfolio event. Well, to start with, I'm going to pull up our website for the Design Portfolio Review. We created this site a couple of years ago, and we felt it was really important to centralize all the information that you need to know about this series of events in one place. It used to just be pages from our proper website, but because this is such a beast, we wanted to give it its own website so that you'd be able to find everything that you need to know on here. And so just to make sure that it's totally clear, when we talk about Design Portfolio Review, we're actually talking about a series of 3 different events. This event has been so important that it's just continued to expand to include all these different events. So starting with Wednesday night, which is the March 15th, we have a networking reception, and this will be for employers to meet with you in more of an informal setting. On Thursday, we have the main event, which is the portfolio review, and that's where you'll be selecting employers to meet with for a portfolio review. And then on Friday, there's a recruiting day, which is essentially for some of the employers, they'll want to stick around until the following day so that they can conduct real job interviews for open positions. And we'll be diving into this much more, but I wanted to make sure that starting out, that was clear that it's the sequence of days over this time period. Another thing that I'd like to make sure that you're aware of is last year, the RISD Careers team funded professional photography in the student lounge area so that you guys, when you get yourselves prepared for a presentation to employers, you'd also be able to fit in a profile photo. We used Rob Cron photography, and of course our plans really for this as a resource to you guys is that you can go and use it for an artist page or for LinkedIn, which is also really helpful. So who is going? To start with, we've got the students, and the Design Portfolio Review is open to juniors, seniors, 5th year students, and graduate students. And we're expecting anywhere from 600 to 700 students to be in attendance. Very exciting. And then we also have over 150 companies that are registered and attending our events. So this list that you're holding should be final. We've got a couple of different legends that we're using. One is to show which events the employers are going to be attending. So in magenta, next to each company name, it has an N, a P, or an R, and that shows whether they're going to the networking reception on Wednesday, the portfolio review event on Thursday, or recruiting day on Friday. That way you can kind of figure out when you're going to have exposure to these employers. Of course, these links are hyperlinked to their site so that you can check out their site in advance. And more importantly, we asked the companies as they're registering to indicate which majors they're interested in. So we're also providing those majors up here are indicated under each company name. Now, if you don't see your major listed under a company that you're really interested in, it's okay, you can still meet with them. They're just indicating their preference. Sometimes they aren't completely familiar with the way that our majors are set up here at RISD, so they may have overlooked your major. And honestly, if you feel like you have a good cause to meet with them and you're interested in them, you should absolutely book time with them. Another thing that you can do is for companies that are attending recruiting day, we have made a separate list that you can see on this page. And we indicate for any of the companies that have a job posted in Artworks, we make it clear on this page. If you are interested in that company, you should absolutely apply. So this is an assortment of the over 150 companies that have registered. We picked some of these companies because they have a proven track record of being really engaged on campus and coming to see us more than once, and they've also provided internships in the past. Again, this is just a brief selection. There are many other studios that have hired interns. We're trying to highlight some of the ones that have been really strong on campus. As we are planning this event, one of the factors that we're working on around all year long is outreach to companies so that we've got as much of a wide grouping of companies that will be providing for all departments as possible. So we reach out to individuals to find out what studios they're interested in. So at any point, if any of you have favorite studios or employers or organizations that you'd like us to reach out to, you can send us mail. We're also active with the Student Alliance, and we ask for their perspectives as well as with department heads, so that we're trying to give fair billing to all majors as much as possible. We have the creative group up here as the last slide. The creative group is actually sponsoring this event, and they are attending as a reviewer because they are actually hiring staff for their organization and also providing helpful industry info in the student lobby area. So they're a great resource to stop in on during the event. We are also hosting department panels in different majors. So like for the industrial design department, this year we have Adidas, Uber, Herman Miller, and Yelp attending. And at these panels, these representatives are able to share their insider perspective on how their design studio works and the culture of their studio and how they approach innovation. We also have a department panel coming up for illustration as well, which includes Black Math, Sockeye Media, Jennifer Nelson artists, and we're holding out to see if Harmonics will be able to join the panel as well. This will also include alums, which is another great opportunity to make contacts with people for your professional network. Any questions so far? Cool. So the big question, and this is probably like one of the great benefits of meeting tonight, is that we can go through the sign-up process. Because as you can tell, when we've got this many students that are signing up for time slots with this many employers, it does require a front-end system to enable you to do this. So we can go through that. So for starters, we have the networking reception. You should go ahead and RSVP for this event as soon as you can in Artworks. And again, this will be to attend the reception where you can meet employers in an informal setting. We also have the design portfolio review signups. As a first step, and this is something that you should do before tomorrow or early tomorrow, is make sure that your profile has an updated resume. This will make it possible to sign up for slots. And of course, employers will be able to access this resume, which will be really helpful for them to have a good perspective of you before they meet with you. So the way that we open up signups for the design review on Thursday, well, to be clear, for the sign up tomorrow, we start at 6 p.m. and we will give you the chance to sign up for 4 slots. We don't give you the ability to sign up for all 9 of your potential slots, because what we're trying to do is make sure that in that first wave of signups, you may be busy in studio, you may not be available right at 6 o'clock, and you might need to do this later in the day. We want to make sure that you're not missing out on other spots that are being gobbled up by other people that were available at 6. So we start with 4 spots, at 6 p.m. And then on the following day, starting at noon, 12 o'clock, we open it up to the remaining 5 spots. Not everybody signs up for 9 reviews. That would be a very busy day and a long day, but that is the maximum amount that you can sign up for. And then for recruiting day, the way that recruiting day works, again, as I said, like with the portfolio review day, you're choosing who to meet with. With recruiting day, the employers are more traditionally choosing you and conducting interviews. So for the recruiting day, you should have been receiving email from us about applying to jobs in preparation for this. So employers will be looking at the applications that you've submitted and making selections for the recruiting day. If you haven't applied to a job, do keep in mind that employers will also sometimes select students in the moment on Thursday during a portfolio review and ask you to come back for a job interview on recruiting day. So there are more than one ways to get an interview in recruiting day. So it pays to be prepared for the sign up when it comes to the portfolio review sign up. Some of the best ways to be prepared is to create a top 10 list out of this participating companies list, or however long you want that to be. Just understand like what your top companies are and prioritize that list. We do have how-to instructions on our website at designreview.risd.edu, and it does include a step-by-step slideshow, which is really helpful so that you'll know what Artworks is going to look like when it is time to sign up. The reason why I say this is because one of the features that's being demonstrated here in this slideshow is this tab. This tab only appears when signups is open. So when you go to Artworks right now, you will not see that tab. It's going to look slightly different. So do keep that in mind. And if you miss out on meeting with a company, do keep in mind that there is a resume drop in Artworks where you can submit your resume to an employer and they will receive it before leaving. So aside from that systematic approach, I do also have like a pro tip for you guys to consider as you've got like your top studio list and as you're signing up for portfolio reviews. For your top companies, I actually recommend trying to book them later in your visit at portfolio review. And then some of your lower tier studios, book those first. That way you get a warm up with somebody that you're not as concerned about. And by the time you get to the studios that you're really into, you'll be warmed up and more comfortable. You'll be more familiar with the process, and it may improve your presentation when you meet with them. Cool. Oh, this is a key technical tip that I forgot to mention, so I'll mention it now. When it comes to signing up in Artworks, the system can only handle one login using your username at one time. So you might be thinking that if you've got multiple browsers or devices or multiple tabs open, you can be trying to game the system a little and try to get spots quicker, but it will actually backfire. You need to make sure that when 6 o'clock comes, you log into the system and start the process. We've even received calls last year where people were already logged in, hitting reload on Artworks, and they weren't seeing that functionality come up. So make sure that you do wait until 6 o'clock is passed before you log in and start signing up. Okay. So let's give you a perspective of what the event is like. So for starters, we host it at the convention center. It's a great facility and it's probably one of the only places that we could fit all of you under one roof. You want to dress to impress, so however that translates for you, you just want to be deliberate about your appearance and be presentable when you're meeting with employers, and show them that you care. For the networking reception, this is more of an informal setting. We've got like cafe tables set up that you can stand at. You want to come with your resume and business cards if you have business cards, and come prepared with some good questions. You should be prepared to give an introduction about yourself and introduce yourself. Have any career goals or objectives in mind as you're engaging in conversation. And don't forget to ask for a business card from the employer every chance you get. It's a great way to get their contacts and to then be able to reach out to them in the future. And if you know that you're going to see them tomorrow for a portfolio review, then let them know. All of these moments where you get to engage with the employer just makes you feel more familiar to them, and hopefully will improve your chances of taking the next step with them. So these are some helpful questions that are intentionally pretty open-ended to try to get the employer talking about their perspectives and what their company is like, to help you understand what this position could be like for you and whether or not it could be a fit. I won't bother going through all of them, but we will be providing this presentation on our website, and you can also follow up with us and we can go through some of this if needed in like an advising appointment. So how do I show my work? We've gone through like what the event looks like, but how do you actually go about the process of showing your work? And your portfolio is in a way, it's telling your story. And so there is a bit of a narrative to your portfolio. You've got 15 minutes to work with when you're meeting with an employer, and you should be prepared to take them through their work, take them through your work, and understand how your work relates to the employer. And so when we'll go over like some of the different types of portfolios that you can be presenting at this event. So for a printed portfolio, it's a good idea to have like 6 to 12 pieces in there, starting and ending with strong pieces, trying to show artistic depth in what your work is, and sharing the story of your work as you go along, providing the background info on the problems that you were looking to solve in different pieces. And it is also helpful to provide your work and creative process in these portfolios. So sketches are appropriate if it backs up the final piece. That would give art directors or art leads the ability to see how you carry an idea from start to finish and have a better sense of what you'd be like to work with. Printed books are also an option, and of course they're very popular with our architecture students. And so it's a good idea to have like 4 to 8 projects that are in your book that, again, show like the creative process in different projects. We have also heard from time to time from our employers that one of the things that they like seeing in RISD architecture books is some fine art at the cover, if you do have it. It is one of the things that does set you apart from other architects that are out in the world. And it's a good idea if you haven't already gotten your book ready. There are a couple of popular print providers like Blurb and Lulu are 2 that we found that are reputable. And you want to look into those for both the quality and cost, and also the layout options, so that like how you're laying your work out and printing it. And then we've got online book hosting through issue.com is also really helpful, and that's a nice complement to your printed book. Perhaps you've got like a subset of projects that you're showing in your book, and then you've got a link to the digital version where it could have more work for the employer to see. And then, of course, there are like custom websites or standalone websites. Some of them may be set up as a catalog where you've got like different categories for your work. Others may be more slim, where it's really meant to just be like a curated presentation for employers. And some of them will use like a grid system, which provides the employer with the opportunity to click into the project that they're most interested in. And that's really handy for them as they're reviewing work. It's really important to keep in mind here when we're talking about online portfolios and we're talking about applying to jobs, which is of course like part of the context with design review. These employers, many times they have many people applying and they have a very limited amount of time to be looking through portfolios. So whatever you can do to provide your curated set of work front and center, right when they load your URL, will make it a fast process and hopefully make a good first impression, where then the employer can go through, and if you've got like a catalog website, they can dig through more of your archives and learn more about you, view an artist page. Like this one has an artist page with a brief explanation and contact info so that employers can follow up. We've also, of course, we're nerds about like creating portfolios, so we find articles that are best cases for achieving good results in your portfolio. So we're not bashful about sharing good things that we find online. Of course, we find these things and post them on our website or in advising sessions, but I thought I'd share some resources for you tonight. And then moving on to online motion reels. So let's see. All right. So typically we're looking for 1 to 2 minutes as the ideal length. It's very helpful to have a title card with your contact info at the beginning and the end. Again, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for the employer to contact you. It's also helpful to have like a subtitle for each sequence that can provide some data about what the employer is viewing at that given time. And to that end, you can have those subtitles relate to like a demo reel breakdown, where you can be watching the reel, hitting pause to look up the details about it in the breakdown. It should be known that like including music soundtracks is pretty risky. Many times when people approach a reel, they try to think of it as its own like piece and want it to be smooth and entertaining, but really your reel is like a functional asset that should just be stepping through your skills. Employers, many of them will actually turn the sound off if it has a song because they don't want the song to influence how they feel about your reel. Like if they hate the song or if they love it, it could change the way that they look at your reel. Pixar does an amazing job at sharing what they look for in reels, and they do provide some great tips on their website. And we've also found this other helpful guide here. Another thing that is really important to consider, and this is really for anyone, are the viewing factors that you're going to be under when you're at the convention center. So there is ambient noise. So if you are actually showing like a reel that has sound that the employers need to hear, you'll want to think ahead and bring like headphones so that the employers can hear it. You also, for any portfolio or whatever you're presenting, you're going to be really conscious of the device that you're using. The Wi-Fi is provided. We do provide Wi-Fi to you at the convention center. However, it's being shared by hundreds of people at the same time, so it can tend to be slow. And just to rule out any problems, it's always the best idea to bring a digital copy of whatever you're showing and have it on your device so that you do not need to rely on internet access. And then when, being prepared to present your work. I mean, you guys, through your experience with critique, are excellent at this, but really taking some time to just know the material that you're going to be showing inside and out, and even practicing with a friend will help you to get the most out of your time with the employer. I think it's also really important to keep in mind that as you're presenting your work, do keep in mind that 15 minutes does pass pretty quickly. So you'll want to make sure that you leave time to be able to listen to what the employer has to say and answer questions. It's nice to have finishing touches available. So whether it's having portfolio samples or postcards or business cards, all of those things can provide a very professional appearance as you're meeting different people at the event. We do have some print providers here that we've had good success with, but like anything, you'll need to see what the quality and cost is and make the appropriate choice for your budget and what you're looking for. So this might be the hardest thing to do as part of all of this. Like, you do all the work to make your work, you get it together in a portfolio, but then you've got this moment where you actually have to step up in front of a stranger and start talking them up and sharing your work. So the first thing to start with is a handshake and a smile. So I was thinking, and this might be crazy, but I was thinking we should all stand up and give each other a proper handshake. And I'll be critiquing you as you do it, so please stand up if you don't mind. There's a couple of things that are worth mentioning about this process. A couple of things to keep in mind here that just happened is you're giving a handshake and you're giving over your hand, and your hand feels alive. It does not feel like you're dead. It feels like you're alert and creatively charged and ready to get to work. And this is one of those body language elements that the employers may be reading into. The other thing is that many times you're giving eye contact, direct eye contact. I saw a lot of that. And it is important to show the employer that they're the most important person in the world at that very moment. So look them directly in the eye and give them a nice handshake. Really, it's a great way to start things off as you kick off a conversation. So again, you want to be conscious of the time. You may even want to have a watch on if you don't normally wear a watch, or just be mindful of that time as you're meeting with employers so you don't run out of time. We've tried a couple of different ways of keeping people on time, and this year we're going to have a very pleasant chime that you can hear. 2 minutes before the end of your portfolio session, you'll hear a chime. At that time, if you're waiting to see an employer, you'll actually be able to walk up behind the person that's meeting. No, it's not weird. And you just stand politely, and this gives a visual cue to the employer that time is coming up and that you're ready. Of course, you've got a 2-minute warning if you're in the middle of your portfolio review to hopefully wrap things up and make sure that you get in that request to get a business card. So you want to prepare your pitch. This would include your goals for the year, your passions and your skills, really being being mindful of what pieces of yours relate to the employer's work and making those connections for them, showing your creative process, practicing your pitch with your peers, and do keep in mind that the whole reason why this is all happening is because they want to meet you. It's not difficult, as you can tell from what we've told you. It's not like we need to chase people down to get them to come to this. We don't pay them or anything. They all really want to be here to meet with you. So it's an amazing opportunity in kind of a controlled environment where you can select who to meet with and you can meet with them. It may be the only time in your career that you get to do this sort of thing, where you can select multiple people to meet with and get time with them, where they have to sit still and give you a portfolio review. So keep that in mind and try to relax and embrace the experience. You'll learn a lot from it, and it'll put you into good shape as you're doing this professionally in interviews for years to come. And don't forget to ask for a business card. I'm only going to say that 20 times. Some of the ways that you can really get prepared for your portfolio review. So you've signed up, you know who you're going to be meeting with. The next step to get prepared for the big day is to check out everything that you can learn about the company. So you can go, and right now we're looking at Etsy, of course. You can learn about the company through their website. They typically will have an about page. You can also learn and be deliberate when you're explaining how the values of a company relate to your values. Look for any awards or special distinctions that an employer has received and be able to speak to that as part of your, talking. Reading behind the scenes info, I think it's really amazing if you're in a position where you're making small talk or whatever, being able to bring up things that have happened that you can learn about through their site will really posture you in a way where you're behaving like an insider already, or like a member of the team that's already in the know. And of course, it really convinces them that you are really passionate and care about them. And then understanding their roles and their open positions and how your eligibility could apply for those different opportunities. Social media has become a really crucial way to expand upon this. So knowing about any connections that you have on the inside, of course, any alumni that are at the studio that you're interested in is like a total game changer. And they are easy people to connect with because they have come from this school. And again, really knowing all of their work and following them on Instagram can even show you more insider info that you wouldn't otherwise get through their website. And so the follow-up. This is really, really important. You could have an amazing experience with a portfolio review, but if you're not following up, you could allow that connection to go cold. So with all of these things, you want to be keeping these connections warm. And there are some clever ways to handle that. To start with, people don't send handwritten notes very often, and it is one of those dimensional barriers that you can break through when you are sending something to someone. Who knows, if you send a card that has an image of your work, maybe you could end up in their office, hung up on their wall or on their desk, and that would be like a steady reminder of you. So that's always a good idea. Of course, you want to connect on LinkedIn. You've got their business card, and you've got their email address. Really easy to connect. And you also want to keep in touch. Now, many people that I advise are like, well, geez, what do I say? I've already had a portfolio review, and I already followed up to thank them. Now what am I going to say? Hey, I'm still here. Unemployed. Well, I have personal experience with this myself. I was an employer before working here, and I was receiving applications from artists, and I had artists that were keeping me warm, essentially. And they would write to me on a regular basis, maybe on a monthly basis. They would show me a new model that they were working on. They would let me know if there was a milestone that they had just achieved professionally or through school. They would let me know if they had seen any of the press that my company was getting, or if I had a new product that came out. They would commend me on the product and tell me specifically what they liked about it. So there are these great reasons to be getting in touch and sharing more of your perspective, and also giving them credit for the good work that they're doing. That could also lead to, maybe if you're in touch over a couple of months and you're going to be in town, the same town as a company, maybe they'd meet you for coffee or have you in for a studio tour or an informational interview. There were so many times where I would have a job get greenlit, and I would have recent email from artists where it fit, and they were the first ones to get placed onto that job. So you really never know what the scenario is going to be like with employers. So it's always a good idea to keep your top studios in mind. And again, this could come back to that top 10 list. Outside of the portfolio review, keeping a list of your top studios and making sure that you're giving them your attention on a regular basis is the best way to be making next steps towards employment. And that covers the presentation. Why don't you come up, Susan, and we can field any questions that you might have.